Every speck on a roof is a bet. Most contractors never find out if they lost.
This one did, publicly, on live television.
A stadium roof came down in 2010. What replaced it, nobody believed would hold.
Still standing.
That's the story today.
Man, I am feeling so excited here today. Feeling very grateful having this conversation. Grateful for the team at Division 7. Grateful for the industry. Grateful for my family and God for bringing me to this glorious day.
You said that me, John, and Ryan might be arm wrestling for spots on the show. I don't know if they're going to stand a chance against the defender.
Against the defender, right? Yes.
Everything about it's been exciting, creative, intentional. We're going to make it exciting and interesting week after week. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Hey, when a building belongs to everybody, ownership isn't the problem. No, responsibility is. A church, a school, a stadium, or a shelter can serve an entire community, but the money, the priorities, and the final decision rarely sit in the same room. Today, along with Steve Reiss, we're going to dig into what really going on and why it matters live on the tie-in today. Good morning, Waylon McKinnon. Good morning, Steve Reiss. We are back on episode number 5 in the saddle together again for the tie-in, brought to you by Division 7 and our friends over at Optelos. Steve, today we're getting into the community business and nonprofit. What drew you to this topic today, my friend Steve Reiss?
Yeah, I mean, I have a heart for nonprofits, a mind for business, and a love for communities that I live and work in. So it just felt natural to want to talk about this today.
I love it. And you put the 3 into the blender. And what I'm really excited about is when you came to me and said, hey, nonprofit business and community. And when you think about it, and when you think about the business Division 7's in and you guys are in, and these buildings that belong to somebody, but Steve, they actually belong to the community. That's fascinating, isn't it? Right. And we're going to go ahead. Sorry.
No, it really is fascinating. These buildings, they belong to the community, and we want to, work alongside the community and the nonprofits that help these things, stand the test of time. Yeah.
So today we got Ben J joining us on the show here today. Excited about that one. Actually, a little bit of a reveal. Keith and Steve sat down with Ben yesterday and recorded the segment that we're going to drop live with you guys here today. And the funny thing is, Steve, is that we kind of ran out of time because we got into some really good chats with Ben. Before we get there, how do you know Ben? How did you arrive at bringing Ben to the show? And just tease up our upcoming segment with Ben J and Blair Sutton.
Yeah. So, Ben has become a very well-respected person in my mind. And I ran into him, Ben and I haven't known each other very long, about 2 years now. And when I ran into Ben, we were helping the Westerville Area Resource Ministry with putting a scope of work together for a re-roofing project on their facility here in Westerville. And so when I sat down with Ben for the first time, I'm just thinking, well, Ben is a leader of this nonprofit. That's a great thing, probably a great guy. But when I sat down and walked into his office, my eyes just lit up. I mean, the sports memorabilia that was all over the place. And I'm like, hold on, Ben. So I understand that, you're running this nonprofit now, but tell me more about you. Where did you come from? How did you get here? And he proceeded to tell me a lot of the things that we're going to see here today on the show. Fascinating.
And I'm laughing not at Steve, I'm laughing with Steve, because as we peeled the onion back, and as I was getting to know Ben, I'm like, whoa, we talked about stadium here and stadium there, and the guy's a source of information, isn't he, Steve? And what I really enjoyed about him too, and I think we as humans often overlook, especially when we live in these wonderful communities, like, you guys are in Galena, just outside of Columbus there. We have these big, wonderful facilities, stadiums and arenas that bring the community together. We don't think about it, but a guy like Ben brings that all together. So here's what I got for us today, pals. We'll go through the show here today. Archie did some awesome work for us today. Good morning, Waylon, and good morning, Adam, out there in the comments this morning. Good morning to everybody joining myself and Steve Reiss live on the tie-in. I thought what we could do, Steve, I wanted to have some fun with you today. I found 5 Ohio buildings that belong to everybody. And again, it's one of those things that we see them, you're like, who owns it? Well, we all do. So here's the first one. And I'm going to have some fun facts. Did you know that Cleveland owns the West Side Market, but since 2024, an independent nonprofit has run daily operations, renovations, programming, and fundraising at that building. Did you know about that building?
I do know about that building. I've been to that building. It's a very cool place. I love it.
Yeah. So here's the question for you. How do you keep local vendors profitable while also generating enough money to operate and repair an aging public building? Now, it's just kind of like a rhetorical question. That's got to be a balance, I think, for a community.
Yeah, absolutely, Keith. I think vendor success has to come first because a full, vibrant market is what generates traffic and revenue, right?
Yeah.
So I think we can grow income through events, partnerships, philanthropy, instead of passing every building cost onto the small businesses that operate inside that market.
Yeah, and I think the question that communities often ask themselves, Steve, is that how do you monetize a landmark without pricing out the merchants and customers who give the place its identity? And I can only imagine when we're on a board, we're trying to make decisions for the community, but yet this building has such an identity in the market. A lot of balancing going on, isn't there, Steve?
There is. I think monetization, sorry, that's a big word. Modernization should protect what people love while improving the basics like accessibility, safety, and building systems, right? That means listening to merchants and customers and keeping the market affordable. So improvements serve the community rather than replace it.
Interesting. So we're gonna take some buildings throughout the entire show here today. Archie did some wonderful homework for us and got, I think, 4 or 5 buildings for us to weave through the show today to look at some of the public community spaces that are happening that are in the Columbus area. All right, let's keep the show on the road here, Jimmy. Let's rock on over to the Roofer's Desk, a segment we have every single week live on the show where we put some news topics on the table. We put them out there for us to talk about. I got 3 of them here for today. And Jimmy, let's start it off here with the Roofer's Desk. All right, Steve, the first one up here today, my friend. Non-residential construction is not soft, it is hollow, and data centers are the only thing holding the shell up.
You see the new ABC numbers? Non-residential is down 7.9% this year. Data centers are the only thing propping it up. 11 months of backlog on data center work, 8.5 everywhere else. That gaps the whole argument for chasing hyperscale. Chasing hyperscale work you've never bid means bonding you don't have and specs you'll learn on somebody's dime. Or it's the only growth left. Sitting out isn't safe, just slower to notice. Slower beats a callback you can't afford. Bidding one right now, actually. Of course you are.
So, Steve, what's this one all about? This one's fascinating to me when you peel the numbers back, man. The data center world is crazy. Steve Reiss.
So commercial construction has split into 2 economies, Keith.
Yeah.
Like, data center contractors have 11 months of backlog while the rest of the private market is shrinking. So if we cannot qualify for the boom, then we need a revenue engine that doesn't depend on it because average market thinking will get us buried. So the important thing to note here is that you've got to have a robust Rolodex of property managers that need re-roofs. The re-roofing market is where, we are going to succeed right now.
Do we see this trend happening for the foreseeable future, Steve?
I guess it remains to be seen. Data centers, I've heard that, in the coming years, they're going to try to put data centers in space.
Yes.
Yes. You heard about that one.
Yes. And I saw a clip this morning. They're putting them in the ocean too. So maybe we don't need roofs. So we obviously want Division 7 to be putting roofs everywhere, but maybe not in space and maybe not in oceans, Steve.
Yeah, probably not. But hey, Division 7's always been on the cutting edge of technology and the latest, greatest thing. So, could there be some sort of a product that gets put into space that needs some sort of waterproofing or something in some way insulation? I don't know. Maybe we could be on the next shuttle out.
All right, we got some comments from Mike in the community here. Our first home was the husk of the general store, built in 1905. Deliberating the trajectory of public buildings is such a daunting thing. Yeah, no kidding, Mike. The decision of embracing innovation and history, and then just the whole balance in between it all, right? And then Steve, we come into these communities, and these buildings become symbols of communities, and it's like, oh my God, we don't want to tear the building down, so it becomes sometimes a contentious issue within a community. All right, story number 2 on the Roofer's Desk with Hector and Randy. Jimmy, when TECTA doubles down on service and Exterra runs a recruiting campaign for sellers in the pages of Trades magazine, you know exactly what the next $50 million platform is looking to buy.
Biggest commercial roofer in the country, $1.6 billion a year, PE backed. Just told they're doubling down on service revenue. That's not new construction chase work. That's recurring maintenance. Same argument I've been making for 20 years. Big outfit says the right words in a trade magazine. Doesn't mean their crews are living it on a roof. Doesn't matter who's saying it. The math still holds, safer than one job at a time. Math I'll give you. Messenger I'm still watching. 20 years, same argument. Guess I'm the messenger now.
The CEO said out loud that the biggest commercial roofer in the country is chasing service revenue. What's your comments on that, Steve Reiss?
So when the country's largest commercial roofer says that service is a growth priority, it's telling us where the durable margin and customer control are moving, right? So we need to own the roof before it fails, or someone else is going to own the replacement. This is a double down on the service relationships that you currently have in place and desperately try to develop more. That's where it's going. That's where it's been going for a while, actually.
Yeah, and if I understand correctly, as I'm getting to know Division 7, you guys have a massive service department. Am I correct, Steve?
We do. Yep.
Yeah. And when you look at the business and I'm not looking for numbers, but when we split it down, there's new roofing and then there's servicing. I got to think over time, the servicing part has been growing, and it's actually what TECTA CEO is saying, isn't he?
Absolutely. I mean, and that's the story across the country. Anyone that doesn't do service right now is trying to learn how to do it. And it's pretty difficult to pull off at a high level and with a high level of customer service.
Oh, interesting. What's so difficult about it, Steve?
It's the communication piece. It's the technology infrastructure that you have to have in place in order to satisfy the customer, right? We live in an instant gratification type of environment.
Yes.
Live updates from Amazon. Where is my package at right now? And that same thought pattern is getting transferred into the contracting space. And you see it, and it first came through at the residential level. Okay. Yeah. You think about, your HVAC technician that comes to your house to change, your filters or do your PMs on your HVAC, right? Yeah. You want to know where they are, real-time updates. And as we move forward, and that came out several years ago, many years ago, maybe a decade ago now. Yeah. So it's getting transferred into the commercial space.
Interesting. Well, and then I think about a company like our partners at Optelos there, like when it comes to service, and again, correct me if I'm wrong here, but being able to use their technology on a job site or within a building envelope, I got to think really would help servicing a building once it's built, or servicing a commercial roof once it's built, using that kind of technology from Optelos. Would I be correct with that, Steve, as well?
100%, Keith. I mean, when you can bring the rooftop to your desktop and not have to travel out to a job site. And the use cases are endless on this. Okay. I'm sure we'll do a whole episode based upon it, but totally agree.
Yeah. So David Tran and Optelos are joining us next week on The Time with myself and Ryan Resides. And of course, today we got our What If segment leaning into some stuff from Optelos. But let's go to number 3 on the Roofer's Desk with Randy and Hector. This one leads into Exterra. Exterra published its revenue on purpose. Ohio's own PE roofing platforms is running a recruiting campaign for sellers. And they did not report revenue to win an award, Steve. They reported revenue to get phone calls from sellers.
Ohio outfit, Cleveland Way. $81.8 million last year. Just told a trade magazine they want 2 to 3 more shops this year. Didn't publish that to win an award. Published it to get sellers calling them instead of shopping around. That's not news. That's a warning shot. Somebody's about to have more capital and come after every shop in the region. Or it's useful. Now you know who's got the appetite and the checkbook this year. Useful if you're watching. Useless if you're surprised. Bet the phone's already ringing over there. Let it ring. We've got roofs to walk.
It's interesting that they did not report revenue to win an award. They reported it to get phone calls from sellers. What drew you to the story?
Yeah, so it's just interesting that, they're publishing these numbers. The PE roll up is happening. They want, they want people to call them. And, in a consolidating market, the contractor who waits for the first poached account has already waited too long. So, in this instance, we need to, take heed. This is what's happening, and just be aware that this roll up is taking place. And so I think that brings a massive service opportunity to folks that are already doing service really well. We need to double down on that, because I think as you grow and get to a mega level, the relationships on the ground start to become a little bit frail or a little bit brittle. A little bit, the people that were managing those accounts are now in much higher roles. And so you got to make sure you keep the contacts close.
Yeah. Hey, you're live on The Tie-In with Keith Bilous and Steve Reiss. We go live every single Thursday, every single Thursday, live at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Next week, we got Ryan Reside. Today, we got Keith and Steve here. We're talking when the building belongs to the community. Ben J is joining us here in a few moments. But before we do that, Steve, let's continue our journey through some awesome community-owned buildings in Ohio. This one, my friend, I'm gonna think you have spent a little bit of time here. Ohio Stadium. More than a fun. Look at your smile. What an awesome stadium, man. Holy smokes. Now, okay, have some fun with me here. When I see this, I don't see a roof, yet you do. Educate me on where the roof is in this facility. And I'm having some fun with words here, but this would, like, as an obvious guy who's not in the industry, like, there's no roof there, Steve Reiss. There's a lot of roof, isn't there?
Yeah, well, in one sense or another, right? I think when you look at this facility, the press box is the only thing with a real roof on it.
Yes.
But these buildings, I don't claim to be an architect, right?
Oh,
but
yeah.
These buildings are waterproofed. I think much like a parking garage,
yes.
Right? And so it's all concrete, and it's got drainage systems and drains throughout, and so it's just funneling the water down through it for the most part.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So when I see this, and you're a resident of Ohio here, here's kind of a community question I would put on the table, because I live in a community with stadiums and arenas as well, and Ohio Stadium carries a lot of shared identity. A rhetorical question, like, how much influence should the community have when there are changes that happen to a building that becomes this important? You have the owner, you have the community, you want to make changes. Like, what's your point of view on that, Steve? As a member of the community, maybe not necessarily the Division 7 guy, but a member of the community, Steve Reiss.
And not only a member of the community, right, but an OSU alum.
Oh, yes. So they're saying we want to put a roof on it. Does the community go crazy about that? What do you think?
So I think that the community should have a meaningful voice, because the stadium's value goes beyond the balance sheet. Okay.
Yeah.
So students, alumni, neighbors, and fans should all help, shape changes. The university remains accountable for the final decisions, though.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly. But again, I that's when conversations can also become contentious as well, I think, right? Because the community has one point of view, the university might have a different point of view, and I think most of all it's solved through conversation.
It is. Yep. It's conversation and collaboration, and people need to have open minds when it comes to this type of thing. But, I think as long as you preserve the historical aspect of Ohio Stadium, or any stadium for that matter, that is a historic stadium, I think you'll be in good shape.
Awesome. Keith and Steve here live on The Tie-In. We're going to bring Ben J up into the show here in a couple minutes here. And before we do that, though, we're going to get Blair Sutton introduced here in a quick second. So I'm going to throw it to you. Guys, you guys can join us every single Thursday live on The Tie-In. You can join the Tie-In channel over on YouTube. We're dropping a page dropping on LinkedIn as well. But come tune in with us every single Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern time, and you can join the Tie-In plus the other channels we're launching on the roofingauthority.network. All right, Steve, listen, here's where we move over to Ben. We've been waiting for this segment, and I'm going to get you to throw it to Blair Sutton and set up our wonderful segment coming up with Ben J. Steve.
Blair, take it away.
Stadium roofs fail. When they do, it doesn't stay local. It becomes national news.
Ben Jay is responsible for making sure a $1.1 billion stadium never becomes that story.
Before the stadium, he ran a $140 million budget at Ohio State, led athletic departments, and managed a conference. He guided people, never commanded them. In December 2022, Minnesota handed him something far bigger: oversight of U.S. Bank Stadium, a $1.1 billion building. The building he inherited existed because of a roof that failed 5 times. The worst one, live on national television.
On December 12, 2010, 17 inches of snow tore through the Metrodome's fabric roof. A Vikings game moved to Detroit.
U.S. Bank Stadium was the fix, a fixed roof engineered to beat the snow that broke the building before it.
In December 2023, he walked away from that stadium and came home to Ohio.
By May 2024, he guided food access in Westernville, Ohio, reaching over 1,000 families a month. A building only matters if everyone can use it. This is Ben Jay, the man behind the building everyone said would fail. Ben, welcome to the tie-in.
Hey, Ben, so you spent 6 years at Ohio State as Senior Associate Athletics Director and CFO, running a $140 million budget and directing 16 LEED Silver building projects, including the Athletic Village District.
Yeah.
And construction wasn't your title. How did it take over half the job, and why did you want to stay that way?
Well, I'll tell you what, of course, most of what I was doing, I was a CFO and overseeing that massive budget, which, by the way, like it is about $100 million more today than it was back then. So, and the funny part about it is that, not only are we worrying about spending our money there, but also needing the facilities. I oversaw all facilities at Ohio State Athletic Department. And so we went on a binge of 16 construction projects during my time there in 6 years. And so we were building things like the softball stadium, the boathouse up at Griggs Reservoir. We, everything to help our student athletes train and learn and be fed and you name it. But it was an important part of what I was doing. So it was both finance and construction at the same time. So, and we were on a whirlwind. We built the athletics village design and started putting the pieces together in it. And so that's how it all worked.
Wow, that's incredible, Ben. I mean, overseeing projects for, one of the biggest universities in the country, what are some of the intricacies that you had to go through, right, of these projects, like intricacies of the projects that you had to go through in order to come out with a success on the other side? What are some of the challenges, I guess, maybe, or a better word?
Well, I think one of the things, first of all, up until that point, I hadn't built a big project, until then. I think the largest project I had was a $350,000 renovation, for offices.
Wow.
And so here I'm looking at building absolute buildings, and facilities and things, renovations in Ohio Stadium, adding on to the Schottenstein Center, new locker rooms, new strength and conditioning areas, new practice facilities, working on the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. We built the extension for all of the offices to the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, and then converted the practice fields outside. We moved field hockey into their own facility. We built a facility just for field hockey. So there was a number of things that we did during that time. It's intricate because, first of all, it starts with the team that you build around you to help you with that. Now, I was not, I relied a lot on Don Patko, who's the Associate Athletic Director of Facilities. He's the one who really taught me construction. He told me what to look for, what to look at, reading plans, really kind of the detail that gets involved in each of those projects. And it's a very detailed thing. And so, we worked through it together, and then I would go seek the financing and things. So at Ohio State, you have to fundraise 90% of the project total in order to start the project. And so that's, you're working together with your development team to try and raise all that money in order to start the project. So, and then I would get into design, construction, and all that. So all the way through to the completion of the project.
Yeah, you're live on The Time with Keith and Steve, live every single Thursday with our guest, Ben Jay. Hey, Steve, as you and I are putting this show together, and you said to me we were bringing Ben on stage for this conversation, Ben, what was it like when you went from these small little projects, medium-sized projects to, hey, Ben, here's a $1.1 billion stadium? I just think, what does it feel like when somebody gives you like the bill or the project for like $1 billion? You've been in the industry forever and you see it for the first time. What was that like, Ben?
It was really exciting to be, having oversight of a $1.1 billion stadium, the U.S. Bank Stadium in Minnesota, home of the Minnesota Vikings, absolute 65,000 seats, suites, you name it. I mean, there are all kinds of things there. But, the building, while I was there, was already 7 years old. And we were taking a look at the lifespan of it. Football stadiums in general, especially the ones that they're building now, are not 50-year stadiums anymore. They're more like 30-year stadiums. And so, so that's what you're building to. And so you have all the maintenance that needs to be done each year, but you also have capital projects that you're going to need to do to keep up with the infrastructure and things. And, one of those projects obviously was the roof that has had issues in recent years and things, but it's a beautiful stadium. I mean, everybody is excited, when they go see, whether it's a Vikings game or whether it's a concert like Taylor Swift, so it's amazing to be a part of that.
What if your roof could show you where the next failure was developing before the leak call?
Property managers already have inspection reports. What does thermal imagery change?
Reports show what someone saw. Thermal imagery can reveal moisture and temperature anomalies that aren't visible from the surface.
One building? Maybe. But what about an entire portfolio?
Optelos puts the thermal imagery in one place. Every anomaly is geolocated, documented, and compared. So the property manager can see which roofs need immediate investigation and which can wait.
So instead of treating every roof like the same emergency,
you prioritize the hidden problems before they become visible failures.
See the urgency before you feel the impact.
Live with Keith and Steve here, live on the tie-in every Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern time. We're hanging out with Ben, Jay. But Steve, that's from our great sponsor, Optelos. And, as I'm learning about Optelos from you and John and the gang here at Division 7, Steve, why does it seem so obvious to me that every contractor or business person should have the Optelos platform? Because I think I'm learning from you guys, you can do the work up there on your desktop. Am I correct, Steve?
Yeah, there's a lot you can see when you bring that rooftop to your desktop, but it makes sense that other contractors would want it, and it makes sense that property managers and facility managers, building owners, whoever that manages and owns a building would want access to that imagery. But believe it or not, Keith, people have not quite caught on yet. So on the contracting side, I know it's kind of fascinating in a weird way, right? On the contracting side, contractors are trying to get the work done. They don't have time to mess around with fancy tools. That's what, you would think that the private equity guys are up to, messing with technology, platforming these companies, and they are. And I do think that in not too long from now, we'll see PE come out with, all of this drone tech. And they utilize it already, but not in the way that we are with Optelos. And on the property management side, people get portal fatigue. We've had portals for years now.
Yes.
And when I talk with property managers about, hey, would you like to see your roof on your computer? The instant answer is, how much is it going to cost me? And is it easy to use? Wow. And so much of the time, it's like people have this portal fatigue. They don't want another login. And I get it. I do get that. But there's a way to manage it and to make it really easy. And guess what? When they ask me about the cost question, it's something that we don't even charge for. This is a part of our premium package that is, by the way, I say premium package, but it's an unpaid subscription to use Division 7 for preventive maintenance. So it's a no-brainer, and it's just about getting people to adopt at this point.
So if you're curious everything Steve is saying, go check out Division 7, go check out the Optelos offer, because perhaps the question is, what if The roof needs attention first, but you can't see it by getting up on the roof. Maybe Optelos has the solution for you. So thank you to the friends at Optelos for being a part of the program with us on the Tie-In Live. We're going to get back to our conversation with Ben, Jay, myself, and Steve Reiss. We're going to continue part 2, where we sat down with Ben to get into more of when the building belongs to the community, not-for-profit, and business. This conversation continues, myself with Steve and Ben, Jay. Jimmy, let's run it. Next up with Ben, and Steve.
Something interesting, Ben, that you just mentioned is that they're no longer 50-year stadiums, they're 30-year, right? So
right.
Can you give us some insight into that? Why are we not building 50-year stadiums anymore and, cutting 20 years off the lifespan?
I think innovations, technology, things like that, things that weren't originally put into the building is what causes a lot of these older buildings to really fall off. I've consulted on other stadiums that are in the midst of severe maintenance issues, deferred maintenance issues out all these years and things. And so, they're just, some of these are built like bricks, but but they are falling apart inside, so it's always the parts inside that, need to be maintenance like all the time. Technology now, especially today, you're always going after the next biggest thing, for fans, for their experience inside the stadium. And so you're needing to make sure that you're upgrading. We are already looking at upgrading the next Wi-Fi. What do you have to do with the next Wi-Fi? What do you have to do with the cellular service? What do you have to do? So you're always looking at things to improve upon the fan experience inside your building.
Wow. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I never thought about that, Steve, because when Ben made that statement, I saw your face, my face was like, really? Because we're spending billions of dollars for 30 years. It makes me curious whether it's we got to get the deal done, so we build it as inexpensive as possible. Right. I'm putting that in air quotes, to build the stadium. And then what happens, Ben, is that do we just deal with it over time? Well, and when you say 30-year lifespan, does that mean it's torn down in 30? Or does it mean that we got to put some money back into it over the next 30 years? Is that what you mean?
Well, you're putting money into it, though, but most times you're almost looking at building a new facility, tearing down your old one and building a new facility. But take a look at what's happening in Buffalo. Take a look at what's happening with some of the pro teams who are all looking for new facilities because theirs is aging and they're not able to deliver the kind of fan experience that they'd like to deliver. And so, and that matters to the people who are spending that kind of money for a ticket to go see a game in that facility. And you want to have, that great fan experience, especially when you go around the country and see some of these other stadiums and see what they all have. It's kind of like you want it. I was at the BTS concert in Tampa earlier, and walked into that stadium there in Tampa, and I was really surprised. It was really aged. Didn't have the kinds of components that I saw in other NFL stadiums. And so at some point they're going to have to deal with that, and in terms of, I think, do they build a new stadium next to it or, like Buffalo did or what?
And for these stadiums, are the dollars coming from, the success of the teams that are in there, or is it taxpayer dollars? Is it publicly funded, privately funded? How's that go?
It's a mix of all those things, Steve, and everything. The $1.1 billion stadium with US Bank Stadium, the Vikings financed $650 million of that. I think $150 million came from the city of Minneapolis. The rest of it came from the state in terms of bonds and things. But the fortunate thing that we were able to do there, I think our part with the Minnesota Sports Facilities Association was about $365 million in bonds. But they had the foresight a long time ago to tie in this gambling item strips that they were using, that they were selling, and all that money made on that would go towards paying off the bond. And surprisingly enough, the games were so popular that it raised that $360 million in a short time. And
Wow.
we were able, so during my time there in Minnesota, we were able to pay off those bonds, those $365 million and things. So that was a nice thing for the state of Minnesota, since it's really the people who paid for that stadium. So
I find it fascinating, Steve, because when you and I were putting together today's show, and you said to me, hey, let's lean into business, community, and nonprofit. And today's title is When the Building Belongs to Everybody. And it's interesting, right? Because public-private builds the building, but then Steve, you, me and Ben go into an event, and because we're fans of what happens in that building, we almost feel ownership of that, isn't it, Ben? Because it's not like some corporate building where Steve has his office. It's like, no, that's the home of my team.
Right.
And then how people feel about that, Ben. There's something to be said for that, isn't there, Ben?
It's something to be said for, like, because especially with US Bank Stadium, it is the people's stadium. They're the ones, you know, after the Metrodome went down and everything, that they needed a new stadium there. And this idea of this $1.1 billion stadium was amazing, because it was built on the site of the Metrodome, you know, of the old Metrodome. And it included really some interesting facets. I mean, the clear roof, the ETFE roof that was used in that construction, it made it amazing to have, you know, half a year roof where sunlight and everything could come through, and really changes, I think, the vibe inside the stadium. Like, you really didn't feel like you were in this enclosed building. It was really great to feel like that. And then, of course, it had 6 louver doors, huge 90-foot louver doors on the west end of the stadium that could open up in the early season games, because the weather would allow you to open up those things. And it was amazing stadium to be a part of, because I mean, it was so cool to sit there, and all of a sudden you see these big doors just open up, you know, with the hydraulics and everything open up, and you can let the weather, the breeze, and everything come in. So amazing place.
Yeah, Steve.
It's fascinating, the construction, you know, of some of these facilities, right? And some of the cool things that you see at a major sports complex versus, you know, the buildings that, you know, we're working on every day. It's so different. And it, you know, it just brings to me a lot of appreciation for these massive structures that are built for entertainment experiences. Very cool.
Yeah. It's, you know, when you get to work on, and of course, one of my favorites, obviously, during my time at Ohio State, was being able to work on renovation to Ohio Stadium. You know, we were, you know, during my time, we renovated suites, built new suites. We had changed the field. They just recently changed the field again, you know, because normally those things needed replacing, you know, every 5 or 6 years. And now, you know, they put down the NFL style monofilament type field down. So this will be a first test of a monofilament.
Right.
And where a lot of other college stadiums had the old style, the slip film, this one is going to be new. This is going to be more pro style type field. So it'll be interesting to see how it holds up. And things. So.
And so will the 2026 season be the first year that the Buckeyes are playing on that new field?
It is. The first time that they're playing on that new field. And so it's you know, but you know, the NFL stadiums have always had, you know, it seemed to be safer to play on. I mean, you know, you take a look at the research, and the NFL is constantly researching on their fields to make sure that the players are playing on the best field possible. And so I think through the studies throughout the years, one of the things that they keep very close to the vest, though, is all that research. You know, a lot of that information doesn't get out to the public, you know, like that, you know, so and everything, the NFL teams get it and everything. So you take a look at the data that their research has come up with, and you know, if it says it's safer, then they're going to try it like that.
You're back live on The Tie-In with Keith and Steve and our guest, Ben J. Steve, when you set this one up, you said to me, we're going to have a hard time fitting in all the conversation with Ben in the brief period of time. And you're right, because I want to talk about SoFi Stadium, Texas Stadium, because when again, this topic is so awesome because a stadium represents a community. Right. It represents your team. Like I'm up here in Winnipeg, boys, where like, you know, we had a small little arena, and for us to get an NHL team back, we had to upsize the arena. So I'm so familiar with this whole kind of concept. And but Ben, back to you as we wrap up. In December 23, you leave Minnesota and you move home to Ohio. And then in May 24, you're running Warm, a Westerville nonprofit now reaching more than 1,000 families a month with food access.
Right.
So, Ben, what was on your mind when you made that switch? You went from boom to boom. And what did it teach you about what a building is actually for?
Well, it's kind of funny because, after 40 years of working in sports, I thought I was retired. I really did. I thought I came back to Ohio to help take care of my mom. And I thought I was retired. And I ran into a gentleman, a 75-year-old Vietnam vet, who, of all things, loved Ohio State women's basketball. But he couldn't afford tickets. And so I helped him get tickets to women's basketball at Ohio State. And he told me a story. He goes, hey, I go to this place called Warm up in Westville, and that's where I get my food and things. And I said, oh, okay. So we sat down. He told me a lot about it. So he says, you ought to check it out. So I did. I kind of went up to Warm, introduced myself. They took me on a tour of the building. And at the end of the tour, they said, oh, by the way, we're looking for a new executive director. And I said, oh, that's interesting. So I was very interested. It's a great organization. They do great work in the community and feeding a lot of people. And even during my time at Warm, just during that time, it grew exponentially. I mean, the amount of families who need help, the amount of families who are struggling with their day-to-day budgets and things. And I said, I have to be a part of this. And so I took over as executive director. They had an interim executive director before, and they really needed somebody to be in there full time running the place. And so we made some transformation there inside of Warm, I think, to improve operations. I brought a lot of my experience in fundraising and operations and things to really kind of change the deck there. We had turnover in staff, people retired, things like that. It allowed me to bring in some folks with some really great skills, and it really has transformed Warm into the building that it is today. There's nothing like it. I mean, it's a little different because here I'm used to big stadiums where fans are coming in and they're enjoying their day there like that. With Warm, when you come into that warehouse, it's because you need food, you need help, and they have nowhere else to go. And so by being able to help these families, being able to turn over a box of food to them was amazing. And I got to really sit down and go out and meet with some of the clients and really talk to them and try to understand their story, and things, and not really pressing in terms of how you got here, but really, what kinds of needs do you have? The thing about it is, and Steve knows this. I mean, we have a great community in Westerville. They respond really well to Warm and things. So asking for donation for Warm was not always that hard. Like people responded, whether it be with dollars or whether it be with food donations. And, they just recently completed a drive where they got 50,000 pounds of food just from this last drive last week and things. And so, but it's the people that you're helping. It's the seniors who can't get out of their homes and get food. So we were delivering to seniors. It's the kids in school who are going hungry at home, and we're able to provide them a bag of food to help carry them through the weekend. It's the kids in the summertime when there is no school and no school lunch. Like, how do they get a meal? How do they get a hot meal? Warm provided that at 11 different locations. So, it was our obligation to the community. They're dependent on this help. And so it drives anybody who has a passion to help people. I think, especially when feeding people, and I, in Matthew 25, I talked about that, is that, it's the people that you're able to help that makes it, I think, intrinsically, internally, such satisfaction. And that's what I got from it. And so I wanted to make sure that Warm is able to survive for the future, because the demand is ever increasing.
I'm feeling very warm and inspired. Steve, over to you as we wrap up our conversation with Ben here today.
Yeah, Ben, I just really want to dive into that, what you said at the end there, just a little bit further, this intrinsic value, right? Where does that motivation to help people come from for you?
Wow. It's always kind of been a part of me, and it comes from my student athletes, because we're responsible for, anywhere from 350 all the way up to Ohio State's, 1,076 student athletes. And so you're responsible for their well-being while they're there on campus. And some of your kids are going to get in trouble, at 11 o'clock at night, or 1 a.m. or whatever like that. You're responding to all of them and making sure that they're okay, if they need mental health services or whatever like that. And so it comes from my experience in the athletics world, that the compassion, I think, is there. It's always kind of been there. It just really came out, during this time at Warm. When you see folks sitting in their cars, some of the folks are living in their cars, and you're sitting there and you have to be listening. I think that's all they really want sometimes, is just somebody to talk to. And I think that's important, because we had team members, we had faith leaders who went out and talked to families and listened to what their needs were. And if there was some way that Warm could help them with their needs, we would try. We would turn them over to other agencies who had some of those assets to maybe help them. And that compassion just kind of comes out that way, but for me, it really is because of 32 years in college athletics, taking care of student athletes.
Yeah, who would have thought that 32 years in college athletics, helping student athletes, would tie in so beautifully to helping people get food in Westerville, right?
Yeah, it was a natural. It really was a natural thing.
Yeah,
and for me especially, and I think, it was getting out in public, getting out and talking to people, I think, was the most important thing. You can't. It's even like athletics. It's like city government. Like, you have to get out and listen to the people on the street. You have to get out and find out what their issues are. There's no way you can do your job sitting behind a desk. You have to be talking to the people involved and finding out, and how you, with your help, with your resources, and with your connections, like, how can you bring them that assistance that they're looking for?
I love that. Thanks so much, Ben, for your help in the community. It's awesome, and I'm so excited to see the next endeavor that you're on here with your writing and all of that. How that is going to, how you'll be successful in that.
Hey, that's what happens when you're in retirement, man. You do have time.
Yeah,
I was just going to say, Steve, we asked him how he ended up there. If he didn't naturally think that he needed to retire, and he didn't naturally think he needed to go home to go hang out and help his mom, he wouldn't naturally be helping Warm. So good thing that you naturally thought you needed to retire, Ben, because no, you didn't need to retire. The world needs more of your work, my friend.
Well, yeah, I walked into the team violence issue here in Columbus like that. So
yeah,
I was at a big forum last night regarding solving teen violence here in Columbus and things. It's because somebody has to care, and somebody has, hopefully people at the city are listening and things. But the community has to come out and show. And there were a lot of community leaders last night there. Everyday people who care about their neighborhoods, who care about their families and things. And it's like, somebody has to care. And so now it's a matter of, are they listening? Are they listening to us, and are they going to do something about it?
Something that I found kind of amazing as we wrap up here is, when you go to an event like that, Ben, like you did last night about teen violence here in Columbus, there's a room filled with people that care about that issue, that are listening, that want to participate in solving that issue. I think it's a beautiful thing, really, when there's so many different issues like that, so many different initiatives throughout the world, our city, and locally, right? That I find it pretty fascinating that no matter what group I'm involved in, there's people that want to help, right? And so I think that there's hope. I think that brings hope to our communities and maybe to the world, right? Where people do want to help, and it's just a matter of, can we get more people on board to help? Because there's too many things wrong in this world to solve it all at one time. But
well, Steve, I will add, like if it wasn't for Division 7 roofing involved with Warm, I mean, we always appreciated your collaboration with us and things. And I mean, you're talking about a local business that cares about its community, about doing something and stepping up. And Warm always appreciated that everything you and your employees do there. And even if it's a group, coming to volunteer inside the warehouse. I mean, there are all different ways to help Warm and some of the other nonprofits and things. And it's because of people in the community you live, in the community where Division 7 is, in helping out their neighbors.
Yeah, well, we were glad to do it and continue to be involved where we can. So yeah, we love it. We love getting involved with people who appreciate help, who want help, who need it, and we're just glad to be involved.
Awesome. Ben J, thanks for caring, and thanks for caring to hang out with myself and Steve this morning live on the tie-in, brought to you by Division 7. Guys, we're going to walk Ben out of the lab and out of the tie-in show here this morning. Ben, thanks for hanging out with us today, and
appreciate it.
We'll see you again very soon, okay?
All right, Gabe. Thanks, Steve. We'll see you.
Yep.
You ran a $1 billion stadium. Now you're chasing grant money and free lunches. I love it.
This is the part where I usually cry a little.
Anybody can build a stadium. Feeding 1,000 families a month, that's a real trade. Did you just say something nice? Should I get that in writing? Watch it.
Every guest leaves with a hard hat. It's the rule.
Good to have you. Don't be a stranger.
I love it. Blair, Hector, and Randy walking on our guests this morning, Ben J. Steve, we could have talked to Ben for hours.
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. Definitely could have.
We could have. So we're gonna reflect on that conversation with Ben in a few moments. Before we do that, you guys are live with us right now on the tie-in live every single Thursday. I'm having some hard time with my word this morning. Every single Thursday with myself, Steve, and Ryan. Thursdays on the tie-in channel live, 10 o'clock Eastern time. All right, we've been talking about community. We're talking buildings, and when the building belongs to everyone. Steve, I got number 3, man. 5 Ohio buildings that belong to the entire community. How about the Cincinnati Music Hall? So this place opened in 1878 and now houses 5 major arts organizations. And in 2017, the restoration cost $143 million, and it revived one of Ohio's grandest public landmarks. You spent some time over at the Cincinnati Music Hall, Steve?
I haven't spent any time there. I've never been to a show there, but believe it or not, my best friend's father-in-law, late father-in-law, I should say, he played double bass in the Cincinnati. These words are hard today too. The Cincinnati Symphony for about 45 years.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. What a fascinating building that is. And I look at the roof, I look at the ceiling, I look at all that architecture. Like what a wonderful building there in Cincinnati. And I got to ask this question to the community, just a rhetorical question, but we've talked about it earlier. Like, how do you modernize a landmark like this place without removing the character and history? Yeah, as Ben talked about it, we want modern amenities. I'm like, well, no, how do you fit modern amenities into these older kind of places? Hey, Steve, it's interesting, isn't it?
It is. I think you modernize it. It's similar to, another building we talked about, but I think you modernize the essential systems like the safety, accessibility, and acoustics while preserving the architecture and craftsmanship. That gives the music hall its identity.
Yeah.
Preservation experts and in the community, I think, should help guide every major change that takes place at the end of the day.
We're going to have that conversation more when we dig into the tie-in when the building belongs to the community. Keith and Stephen have a few minutes digging further into that as well as reflect on our conversation with Ben. But before we do that, we're going to head above the line, a recurring feature where we celebrate a cool human in the roofing industry. And today, my friend, we are celebrating. And why? Before we run it, Jimmy, why are we celebrating Kelly Mama?
why are we not celebrating Kelly Muma? I mean, she is a champion in this city for this all important cause at her song, and she is on the front lines fighting the fight, helping survivors of human trafficking get rehabilitated and housed and cared for and loved. I mean, this may bring tears to my eyes when we get back from seeing this Above the Line segment.
Awesome. Well, Jimmy, let's run it. Let's run Above the Line. We're going to feature Kelly Muma.
Every week, we put someone above the line. Today, that's Kelly Muma. Kelly is the National Engagement Manager at Her Song. She works alongside survivors of human trafficking, doing trauma-responsive outreach, care coordination, and long-term survivor care. Together, they build something survivors rarely get handed, a safe place to rebuild and discover what they're worth. That's the job. Here's the person behind it. Ask what she's most proud of, and it isn't a title. It's showing up big for her nieces, for her bonus daughter. Every game, every school event, or just because. She says if she isn't loving well at home first, she's missing the point of ministry. She works hard at one thing, letting her yes be yes and her no be no. For I was hungry, and you fed me. When you did it to one of the least of these, you were doing it to me. Her prayer, to never grow numb to someone's suffering, to see people the way Jesus does, to never stop going after the one. That's Kelly Muma, Above the Line.
Favorite segments where we take a big old light and celebrate somebody in the community. And today we're celebrating Kelly. Steve, goes without saying, doesn't it?
It does. She is an incredible person, and so grateful to have a relationship with her and be able to support her song.
Awesome. So Kelly, we're celebrating you today. Love to see you in the comments in the community, and welcome to the tie-in. Good morning, Spartacus. I see you in the comments as well. Good to have you on the tie-in, a live show where we dig into reimagining the roofing industry, brought to you by our friends at Division 7, and of course sponsored by our friends at Optelos. All right, Jimmy, let's run the crib with Hector and Randy. Going over to the contractor read, we're going to dig back into our little chat with Ben before Keith and Steve dig into the main topic today, which is when the building belongs to everyone, and then we'll wrap it up with the history of roofing before we say goodbye for another big episode of the tie-in with Keith and Steve. All right, Jimmy, let's run the clip.
I liked him. About 10 minutes in, I stopped taking notes and just started listening. That doesn't happen with everybody in that chair.
Yeah, I sat there for a minute after he left. Didn't want to move. You don't get that off everybody who walks through here.
The Westerville part's what stuck with me. Most people scale down when they leave a stadium. He scaled up.
There's a version of that guy who takes the stadium and rides it out. He picked the food pantry. That's not a small thing.
He's a guy I'd work for, and I don't say that about many people who wear that kind of suit.
Time with Keith and Steve, and let's break down our chat with Ben before we head into our main topic. And I got a giggle, man, because when Ben said I was retired, I'm like, oh, this story is not going to go in the right direction. And he was retired, and then he's back into building incredible facilities, making differences in the community. He's clearly a man of faith who sees things going in the right direction. Let's take a quick minute to reflect on our chat with Ben. Steve.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I took away, there's a couple things, but one thing that I took away from that conversation was the delegation that was needed in order for him to succeed in these roles. He was very, in his humility about that, right? He's not a know-it-all kind of guy by any means. He realizes that he needs a strong team around him that gets it, wants it, and has the capacity to do it. And so that's what we call here at Division 7 GWC. And that's something that we look for in the team members around us. And so he realized that he needed that, because without a strong team around him, and without being a humble leader who is able to garner the respect of those teammates, he's not going to be able to pull off all of the things that he did. And then the second thing that I was thinking about was, the collaboration needed in order to pull this off. So public-private partnerships, nonprofit partnerships, contractor relationships. You'd have to have, imagine, as a, basically you're running a general contracting firm in that sense when you're going to build a stadium or any building for that matter, but something so grand as a stadium even more. The relationships that you need with all of these contractors in order to pull it off successfully, and the high-level project management that has to take place to get everything sequenced right as well, and in the right order, on the right timeline, and all of that. So very impressive guy that he's been able to pull that off, and just have a lot of respect for Ben.
I really lean into the delegation aspect of it as well, because we talked about landing a $1.1 billion building. Steve, we got to do a little bit of delegating to build that. Here's a question for you as a leader. Why do you believe you're a leader, you're a father, a business owner? Delegating is so hard for all of us who are leaders and business owners and so forth. Maybe just to offer some personal insight, Steve. Why is it so hard to delegate?
Yeah, I think it's really tough for me as well, and it's because I think this probably for anyone that has trouble delegating, this is the thing that comes up. I feel like I can do it better than everyone else around me. There's no one else around me that could do it quite as good as me. Now, that's not true, right? That's a false belief.
Yes.
But something about whatever task that is, we cling to we make it a part of our identity and we cling to it. And so we take full responsibility, and that's a good thing, but we can do it to a fault. And so the thought is, if I delegate this task or responsibility and it doesn't get done to the level that I think it should be done and I need it to be done, then it's a failure. And and we take that to heart. So we need to retrain our brains, I think.
I know it's something that I have worked on as a leader my whole career, Steve, which is just being really, trying to get better at delegating to this day, frankly. And then when we get presented with a story like Ben, who's, being a part of a $1 billion project, like I joked to start, we need to delegate, or that project is probably not going to succeed very well, or it's going to run over budget, or it's just not going to. And then when you say to me, we got public and private and all these different owners involved, there needs to be delegation happening, Steve Reiss.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no question about it. If you don't delegate in those situations, those projects will fail and flop.
Yeah. All right. Coming up, we're going to keep the show on the road, the history of roofing. But before we do that, we're going to dig into the main topic of the time. But even before we do that, I want one more nugget I want to put on the table for us, Jimmy. Let's get into this one. So we have another facility, the Franklin Park Conservatory in Columbus. And here's what's interesting, guys. And this is brought to us by our friends at Optelos. Again, the Franklin Park Conservatory, Steve, is a public landmark that had to reinvent itself to survive. In 94, its leaders took a major financial risk on a butterfly exhibition that Gamble helped create a lasting Columbus tradition. Hey, so when you reflect back, you're an Ohio resident. Is in hindsight, was that smart innovation or a reckless last bet? Or was that just somebody who's like, hey, we're going to take this building on behalf of the community and make the bet we think is the best bet for the community?
Man, it was definitely bold. I will say that. It was bold. No one's going to argue that, right?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, is that not an understatement? Yes, that is bold.
But it wasn't blind, Keith.
Okay.
So if leaders had evidence of public interest in this particular case and a strong plan to deliver, when options are running out, as a business leader, you weigh whether the risk fits the mission, and whether success can change the trajectory, and whether doing nothing is even riskier, right? And so when you're running out of options, you have to consider those things and think, well, if I can get a ton of traffic to this place to see these butterflies, can I garner some public interest, right? Can I get people behind it and think that, we can save this place? Yeah. And I think exactly what they did.
That would have been an interesting conversation in the community, I'm certain, when that came up. What? Butterflies? Yes, trust us, butterflies.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting. I think, when it kind of taps into our natural sense of beauty, right?
Yes.
No one's going to argue that butterflies are not incredible. I mean, anyone sees a monarch butterfly flying around, and those are common here in Ohio. You're almost stunned for just a moment thinking about how beautiful that creature is. And it's like, man, we don't want to see, these things go by the wayside. We don't want to see this place that is so cool to bring our kids to, and so many different family members and community members too, that, maybe we do save it. And I think that's exactly what happened, in hindsight.
Yeah, I'm loving this journey through Ohio and the buildings of Ohio, especially when you put the topic on the community, who owns the building. So, all right, Jimmy, let's go to the main topic. We're going to get into it, man. When the building belongs to the community, a building has one roof, but it almost never has one owner who feels responsible for it.
You know what I have been thinking about all episode? Every building has one roof and 4 bosses. I spent 3 months once chasing a $12,000 repair through 4 different owners on one strip mall.
Most of the time, delayed repairs is not a money problem. It's a governance problem.
You're not wrong.
Every contractor watching this has lost a job because nobody could say yes.
We are digging into that next. The ones who live it, not the ones who write the leases.
Stick around.
Steve, we're back with our main topic here today. So I want you to teach me. So you're the Chief Revenue Officer, Division 7. You're out there talking to folks all the time of helping with their roof service, building their businesses and so forth. But when a building has multiple owners, and I'm even thinking about the conservancy we just talked about, multiple owners, tenants, or a board. Steve, when you pick up the phone, who actually says yes to the repair? And then how are you finding the person?
Well, the person with the signature authority found through the governing documents and budget trail, right? So there is a bit of a paper trail you have to go down to sometimes find the person responsible. But when you have great relationships with entities, right? This question may be more about how do you get into a building that you don't work with already, but coming through on the other end, we work with so many buildings that are in this situation, and so a lot of times you'll find that they'll prop someone up as the point person that's going to kind of be the one that works with the vendors, works with the building, works with the owner, and they're kind of playing quarterback on everything. But it is very difficult to find that person on a facility that you don't currently work with. But again, through the strong relationships, people know people. The law, what is it? The law of 7, like,
yes,
through 7 people, right? And when you have strong relationships with others in the community and in the property management, facility management, ownership space, they can lead you to the right person. And it's so much of the time, it's crazy. I'm at an event, right? And I'm like, hey, have you know anything about this building over here? And they're like, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? Like, yeah, I know the facility manager, I know the property manager, I know the building owner, and oh, no kidding. Like, let's go golfing. Let's have a conversation with them. Let's do something fun to kind of ease the atmosphere and get into a conversation about some building maintenance items.
What I find humorous when I think of these conversations, and for my simple mind, Steve, I go to this. I go, okay, so let's be really simple. There's the building. Who am I giving the keys to? Right? Because there's like that sense of ownership when somebody owns the keys. But when I'm like, okay, so is it the tenant? Is it the board? Is it the building manager? And it's not as black and white, which is I own the building, I get the set of keys. Because to me, Steve, those set of keys are like the metaphor for ownership, even though they're not. Do you kind of follow my line of thinking there?
Yeah, I think so. I think the keys go to that quarterback in so many ways, right? And there's a lot of people with sub keys, but there's and I think it's through those networking conversations where you find the person with the master key, right?
Love that analogy of the master key. Yeah. Okay. Let's keep this conversation going then. So somebody who's in the industry, maybe a property manager or a building owner, let's throw it back to you. Who's the expert? How does a property manager protect themselves? I know we had Holly Fuller from CBRE on the show a couple weeks back here, but how does a property manager protect themselves when ownership is fragmented and there's either nobody wants to sign the check or Steve, you can't find the person who wants to sign the check? What's the strategy you would say to that property manager?
I think it's all about the documentation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And processes being followed. And so I think if a property manager is doing their job, they're getting written notices, they're documenting the risks, they've got clear options, right? From contractors, they're doing their due diligence, getting their bids together and that sort of thing. So that way it can never come back to say, well, oh, you must be having something fishy going on with this person or that person. It's like, nope. We've got clear options in front of us and a strong paper trail.
Strong paper trail. So then let's wrap up our little conversation when the building belongs to everyone with this one, because I think this one kind of makes us cringe when we think about the cheapest option. Let's go back to the beginning of it. How do you write a scope or a proposal that survives, a group or multiple group decisions? I can only imagine, Steve, sometimes the frustration. You're having to put something down, and what you don't want to have is that it goes to the cheapest option. How do you manage that, Steve?
Man, it's so difficult. It is so difficult without being in the room with the
Yes.
decision makers. But, all you can do is have a verified scope that is backed by the manufacturer. I think that if you can, something that the contractor can do on our end, right, is get the manufacturer involved, have the verified scope, and then clear priorities, like what do they want? And you have to really vet that out and go through all the different options. And that sets you apart as the expert, right? Like, oh, you asked me questions that no one else asked me in this process. So you get the clear priorities and you get the options priced out, and you don't compete with shortcuts.
You don't compete with shortcuts. We do not have shortcuts here on this show every single Thursday live. Keith, Steve, Ryan, and John on the tie-in, reimagining the roofing industry. Jimmy, let's get over to our last conversation nugget before we wrap up with history roofing, and Keith and Steve walk ourselves out of the lab here this morning. Steve, so this one's really neat, man. The Akron Civic Center. Did you know, maybe you, I'm thinking you know this. I did. I'm on the journey of learning right now, but here's this really interesting, man. A fun fact. Akron Civic Center is one of only 5 large atmospheric theaters left in the U.S., with twinkling stars and moving clouds across its indoor sky. Dude, that's an interesting looking theater, Steve Reiss.
It is. I mean, I've never been there myself. I
Yeah.
have not spent too much time in Akron, except, there is a nice golf course up there that I need to go to. But, I haven't spent much time there. So I would love to go see a show in this theater at least once, in my lifetime. I think that'd be a bucket list item for me.
Absolutely. Coming up on a new segment, Golfing with Steve Reiss, where I know that golf's an avid Steve's an avid golfer, and I'm suspecting the guy does a lot of business on the golf course. But yes, we're going to talk handicaps and golfing with my friend Steve Reiss on the coming episode of Battalion. Oh man, I love it. What's your handicap, Steve?
I'm a 12 right now. Trying to get it down.
Hey, Jimmy, we got it on recording too. So when we do this in a year from now, Steve, like, I'm at a 10. And then Keith's only, Steve, no wonder you haven't been at work. You've been shaving off the handicap.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. I get a lot of crap for that around the office.
Hey, no, but seriously, what do you love about golf? Is it the relationships? Is it the game with yourself, like as a human being? Is it being outside? What is it you really love about golf, Steve?
Man, there's a lot of different facets to it, but I think the thing that probably keeps me coming back is when, you hit a really nice long iron shot to within 10 feet of the pin, and you're like, man, I could see myself being able to shoot under par, and like being in this competitive state where I'm shooting the best golf of my life and winning millions of dollars. And it's like, no, that's not a reality for me. But it's that keeps me coming back. But man, the beauty of these golf courses being out, I'm an outdoorsy kind of guy.
Yeah.
So being out in nature,
Yeah.
hearing the birds, seeing the beauty of these greens, like how the grass is so well manicured.
Oh, yes.
It ticks something in my brain, and I just absolutely love it. But yeah, it's also the relationships and that sort of thing that take place on the course.
Well, I'll tell you what doesn't tick my brain, because when I was on the golf course, Steve, a few years back, and I wouldn't mind hitting the ball every now and then, I'd hit a nice shot and I'd be all confident with my shot. And here's where I thought you were going to go with it. So I'd get a good drive and I'd be all confident, walk up to my shot. And then, of course, I would follow up the second shot with the worst one ever. And you're like, oh, that did not work out very well. So, you know what I mean? You walk up there all confident, you think you got it all sorted out, and then you follow the first one with the worst one.
Absolutely. It happens to me almost every time I golf.
All right, let's get to the history of roofing. Our final segment this morning on the big show we call The Tie-In. Jimmy, let's run the transition. Spartacus, Mike, thanks for hanging out with us this morning live with Keith and Steve here on The Tie-In. We get after it live every single Thursday. So, Steve, I like this segment of the roofing industry. I'm just a couple years older than you are. And what I like about this one is when we look back into the history of it. And as we're building, this show with Division 7 and on the Roofing Authority Network, The Tie-In with John Kiesel and the gang. And I really get to look back at the history to see what the future looks like. And Jimmy, let's bring this one up, man, because we got an ad from Bond Coat Roofing Systems, which captures a key moment in modern roofing, the maturation of single ply roofing and how it was being sold to contractors they're neat. And, like, look, a covered chuck wagon, like, actually, right? So when you see these whole old commercials or Steve, single ply has arrived, right? And I know you guys are into the commercial roofing space. We're talking maybe a little bit residential, but man, like, when you look at the world you live in now with the technology of the future, when you look back to the history of some of these things, Steve, what do you think?
I just think about how far we've come. I mean, we're talking about covered, the single ply covering on this wagon, right? I mean, that's
that's
wild. I mean, we have cars, we have planes, we're in space. Like, what? This is just insane.
Right. So you can imagine the conversation with maybe the husband and wife or the family. Hey, Steve, we're going to get a new wagon for the horses. And guess what? This one has single ply roof on it, so we're not going to get wet. But the funny thing, it's not too dissimilar to something we're building today, right? It's just, like you said, going to space, building data centers and water. But you look at this, it just shows you how far we have come, isn't it?
Well, it does. And it shows you the ingenuity of human beings, right? I mean, this is in relative recent history. I mean, you think thousands of years ago, people were still staying dry, building pyramids in Egypt, right? I mean, like, just how? And there's a lot of ways that they did that, but man, it's just the ingenuity of human beings astounds me.
Yeah, the ingenuity of human beings absolutely astounds me as well. And we're going to get to inviting those human beings with the invitation. Jimmy, coming up next. All right, my friend, another episode done. Finito. Thank you to Ben, Jay. Thanks to Melissa, Carter, Jimmy, and Archie for helping pull this entire episode together. Steve, thanks to you, my friend, for hanging out with me this morning. Thanks to the entire team at Division 7. If you guys want to join us live on this platform, reach out to John, Steve, or any of the team at Division 7. Obviously, if you're looking for stuff to help your building, our friends at Optelos can help you with that as well. We are on demand at the roofingauthority.network. You can find the tie-in channel. You can find the folks at Division 7, division7.net. Steve, a lot of fun. Another great show today. Good conversation with Ben. Over to you, pal, as we wrap up today, my friend.
It was a fantastic show. Great conversation, like you said. Thanks to everyone who tuned in and watched today, and everyone that's going to see, the recording of this.
Yeah.
And so look, keep tuning in. Every week, we're going to come back with great conversations, and they're going to keep getting better and better over time.
Absolutely. We are reimagining the roofing industry. One of the things we are very passionate about, and one of the things I really enjoy working with John, Steve, and Ryan, is that they're so rooted in the history of it, but the vision of Division 7 is so rooted in the future as well. The way you guys have embracing technology, new forms of doing things, is really what excites me as we continue to build this wonderful platform. So, Nation, Tie-In Nation, the Roofing Nation, to everybody tuning in this morning, Spartacus, Mike, Captain Homer, Adam Holroyd, I know too, but we got Waylon McKinnon out there as well as John and the gang at the time. Thanks you guys for joining us. On behalf of Steve Reiss, I'm Keith Bilous. Next week, Ryan Resides is joining me with David Tran and the gang at Optelos live, 10 a.m. Eastern time on Jimmy, the Tie-In.